Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the SwanBank podcast. As we mentioned last week, Catherine's taken a well-deserved break, so we promised you some special guests, and I think I've delivered this week. I've delivered on some special guests. I'm joined by the wonderful Tom Hall and Chris Wright. Boys, are you well?
Hello. Very well. Very well. How are you, Sam?
Yeah, all right.
I don't know what to say.
You look uneasy, Chris.
I do look uneasy.
Yeah.
This is strange.
I
It's good to be with you, though, inside.
That's very true. This is a strange experience for us. As many of you will know, Tom, Chris and I, originally, before the SwanBank podcast was even in a glint in anyone's eye, started the almighty pod back a year ago. And normally, Chris and I just turn up and Tom does all the work. Whereas this week,
For 1 week only.
I'm feeling very, very much under pressure to deliver.
I mean, I'm in the same boat. I'd still turn up.
Chris is still, after a year, never done any work.
I walked in, sat down, crossed my arms, and I haven't moved.
So we in a little while we're going to talk a little bit about the Almighty Pod and just share a bit of that story of the past year. But Chris and Tom, you've been part of the life of SwanBank for a long time, way before I turned up 5 or 6 years ago. So boys,
Is that all it's been, 5 or 6 years?
I've been here. This is year number 6.
Wow.
I arrived September 2015.
I remember when Sam first turned up.
Yeah,
Because we'd met Sam before.
Yeah, we had.
yeah.
You first time we met you was the group holiday.
Group
Actually,
holiday.
where
at
was
Pentrent
that?
Hall.
Pentrent Hall.
Yeah,
And you
and I
led
had to
worship
sleep in a
there.
dormitory with all of you.
Yeah, that was really
Having
weird.
never met you before.
I felt a bit sorry for you, to be fair.
Was that the time we got rid of your mattress?
That's when you got rid of every single possession I had.
Yeah.
And Sam was just lying in his bed
Yeah.
thinking, this is
Why
strange.
have I taken this job?
What I can remember about that is we all played football in the afternoon. I
Yeah.
remember Shane Eldershaw and Stu Chapman very overly aggressive in the game of football. Just to drop those names in. And then you all tried to do some bizarre trick shots in the swimming pool later on.
I did.
I remember that, yeah. Backflips and all sorts, yeah.
All sorts, yeah. Ali had watched some YouTube video and you tried to recreate it. I think that was what
This
was the
YouTube
general
video
vibe.
of like 30 passes.
yeah.
And we had 4, and it was just. Yeah,
Anyway.
that was. I imagine that was a
So
strange weekend for
that
you.
was probably a year before I ended up here.
Yeah, and because then
Full time.
obviously you were at ECG
Yeah.
with us. Then I remember you got taken for the conversation.
I got taken for the conversation in it was a tiny car, and I remember being squashed in the back with your mum actually. Ash
Right.
and Ali were in the front, and me and Beck were in the back of this
Right.
like Toyota
Oh, they're tiny.
that tiny little
I
thing.
What
go,
the
they used
Moira
to
had?
have.
Oh,
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
tiny.
I go,
Absolutely tiny.
Wow.
I thought, what on earth is going on?
Was the
here?
first time
Where
you
are they
met?
taking
First time
me?
you met my mum
Yeah,
in the back of a Toyota Argo.
there you go. Great.
We're all going to have to rein... Like, this is not Almighty Pod, Chris. We're all going to have to rein this in a little bit.
Yeah, this is a chance to
In all fairness,
gain
this is,
some listeners.
I mean, this is how I like.
This is a
speak
church
anyway.
podcast. So.
This is how I speak anyway. Sorry.
Anyway, enough
your
about
own
me.
mum.
Favourite SwanBank story from you guys? Because you've been around pretty much since you were born, weren't you? In the life of SwanBank.
Yeah. I don't know. It'll be something from the group, I imagine, or our internship year. Because for people listening, me and Tom did an intern together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Tom did an internship. I was there.
Chris sat looking at the Daily Mail website.
I
We'll
used
know
to,
it's a running theme through
I used
this.
I used to get in. We'd have prayers.
Yeah.
Go for prayers. Then Ali would tell us what the jobs were for that day. Then Tom would go to work, and I'd sit and read the news headlines, and I'd read them out. Hey, did you know?
Which has, to be fair, set you up very nicely for your role on the Almighty Pod as our news correspondent.
I am the Almighty Pod news correspondent. So
There you go.
it's paid off.
God works in mysterious ways.
Those hours of scrolling through the internet, mainly on the Daily Mail. I think that's where I got the most stick, to be fair, because I was reading the Daily Mail.
Yeah.
I don't get my source of news from the Daily Mail anymore, people. You'll be glad to know.
Very good.
If you do, that's fine, but get another one as well.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
But favourite moment, I don't know. Me and you, Tom, did some pretty good group nights over the years.
Yeah, this is one of mine.
And I was thinking, I don't know what your highlight was, but I think my favourite group night we ever did, which, looking back, it wasn't a great idea. There are some things I can't share with you folks. I'm sorry. However, one of the good bad ideas we'd had was it was gladiators.
You stole mine.
And it was gladiators, and we got a load of rubbish. I got everyone in church to bring loads of rubbish in that day, and we chucked, well, not like rubbish,
Okay.
recycling that was clean.
Yeah.
And we chucked it all in the middle of this room, and we split everyone into 4 groups, and we picked 4 gladiators. So I think one was Ali Johnson, one was Taps, and there was a couple of others. Basically, the people
at the peak of their physical
fitness, basically, some of the boys who were quite aggressive. that was the idea. And those aggressive people at the group were picked, and they were the gladiators.
Yeah.
And we gave them all 6 balloons, was it? And the idea of everyone else was to build some sort of body armour. We were doing the armour of God.
Probably,
Good idea, actually.
Like
yeah. Well, if we weren't, we should have done. And we gave 6 balloons that were blown up, and they sellotaped it to their bodies. And then they had to build some sort of protective shield around these balloons.
Yeah.
And they did it, and they built this armour, and it looked pretty impressive. And then we basically put all 4 of them in the middle of this room together and told them the last man with balloons not popped wins.
Wow.
So they just started fighting.
It was a brawl.
And they were beating each other up, throwing
Wow.
each other on the floor, trying to get these balloons popped. And me and Tom kind of looked at each other and thought, yeah, it's still a good idea. Everyone else in the room was a bit confused. I feel like we had someone there that night?
Like a guest.
A guest.
No.
Was Ruth Hearson there?
Quite possibly. It's
Brilliant.
usually when we invite people that the worst things start to happen. So
So I think that was one of my highlights.
yeah.
Okay.
I've got hundreds of stories. Hundreds.
One of the caveats for you sharing these stories was stories that wouldn't get other people in trouble, which probably means there's a lot you can't.
Oh,
Can't
yeah.
share.
That's the majority of things.
Lots we can't share.
Out.
No, we say get people in trouble. The only person we're going to get into trouble on this podcast is Ali Johnson.
Okay.
He did break my ankle.
Oh yeah, I forgot about this. This is good.
Yeah, he did break my ankle. Oh, this is all this podcast is going to be.
Okay.
He did break my ankle. We were playing, and it was an amazing idea. One of the better ideas we had. However, we did have to ban it. No, we didn't ban it. We just had to alter it, didn't we?
Mhm.
Change the rules.
Yeah.
And
We've done it since then.
Yeah, we've done it since with
There's been
changed
less
rules. Yes, less injuries.
breaking of bones.
Yeah, and it was the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
Now, if anyone who's listening doesn't know the concept of the Hunger Games is where you stick 24 people on an island, and the last man alive wins.
It's a perfect game for our church.
Perfect
youth group
game
to
for a
play.
church youth group. However, obviously, we're not going to kill people. That's not what we're about. So we changed it to ball pit balls. If you got hit by a ball pit ball, you were out.
You were dead.
So
Yeah.
they started off, we're in the upper hall, and everyone is surrounding this box of ball pit balls. And someone blew the whistle. This is actually Sylvie Johnson's idea.
Okay.
It's Sylvie's fault.
Wow.
And
There's a lot of name dropping.
I'm going to drop everyone. I'm going to get everyone in it. There'll be no one left in this congregation by the time we finished. And the whistle went. And in the Hunger Games, you either run to the weapons or you run away.
Okay.
Ali Johnson ran straight for the weapons and roared. And we all got scared.
Yeah.
You know, in Ali Johnson fashion. And he ran and he threw this box of balls at us. So we ran down the back stairs and he chased us.
There's about 10 of you.
There was about 10
you need
of
to
us.
say, yeah.
There was 10 of us. And the back stairs, and we crammed down them stairs.
They're terrible as well.
And
They're
all...
hard to walk down
Yes.
at a normal pace.
So
let alone
10 of
run.
us ran in fear down these stairs.
Wow.
And all 10 of us fell down these stairs. I didn't actually break my ankle. I've just got no ligament left in it, which is fine. And I fell down with everyone on top of me. And I was lying upside down on these stairs.
So I've heard this story before. I didn't realise this was like at the beginning of the game.
This was, this was it.
Yeah.
This
Like
was right at
within
the
the
beginning.
first 10 seconds,
10 seconds.
you'd broken your ankle.
Yes.
Great.
10 seconds.
I also want to say the reason we banned it is because at least once, I want to say twice before that, when we played it, other people had also broken bones.
Lauren
Brabs,
Brabs broke a bone on the same game. Anyway, so I'm now lying underneath 10 people, which is great. And they all got off. And they were like, "What do we do, Chris?" Because they could see I was in pain. I was like, "Just go without me. It'll be okay." And off they ran and hid in all parts of the building. Anyway, John Bolt was there, and he was he's a St. John ambulance man.
Yeah.
And he
That's the official title.
I don't think.
We'll now call him Saint John.
St. John. St. John Bolt. And he came and first aided me, and he said, "You have seriously damaged your ankle here, Chris." I said, "Oh, I need some crutches then." So he went and he got me some crutches. So I went and finished the game on crutches. And I remember crawling on the upper floor, the upper hall floor, with crutches, throwing balls. And then I got home and I woke up the next day and my foot wasn't a good colour. And my dad said, "Let's go to hospital."
Yeah.
So I went to hospital.
Brilliant.
All Ali Johnson's fault. Sorry,
Good
Tom, I've
story.
spoken for too long. You can tell me your highlight time.
My highlights have just been listening to Chris for 10 years. No, I've been coming to SwanBank since I was born, so that's like 26 years. I didn't take a break like Chris did.
Yeah, there was a period where
We don't speak of those years.
the dark days.
But yeah, obviously you've got like the serious stuff of, I can remember very clearly lying on the floor of the lower hall. Paul Critchley was serenading everybody with his pads and his keyboards, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to actually do this and become a Christian properly. There was amazing moments more recently where we've done stuff like the Tuesday night Bible study where we'd get 5 or 10 kids from church come in, and then one week you just get like 15 other school kids that wandered in and fancied it, and that was amazing. More on Chris's level.
I was going to say, right, you could have at least put stuff on the same level as me
here it is.
before getting out the big guns.
Here it is. On a very similar night to what Chris has described, which is where I thought he was going, it was called Challenge Night, and so we had a night full of different tasks, and we sellotaped a lot of the same boys, I think, that did the original task that Chris spoke about. We sellotaped their entire body with balloons, and it was a competition to see who could pop the most balloons by running and jumping against a wall, which didn't end very well, because not many of the balloons popped, and they just bounced back and then hit the floor. And then probably as well as that, got told off by Rachel Barnett because we played ultimate frisbee, but without a frisbee, instead using a peeled banana.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that wasn't good.
And we basically repainted the walls of the lower hall.
Gosh.
And that was bad actually.
Yeah.
We got in trouble. Rachel Barnett's told us off a few times, to be fair.
But Rachel Barnett is, I will call her a super fan of the Almighty Pod.
Is she a super fan of the SwanBank pod?
We'll find out.
This might be the episode that
we will
changes
find
that.
out.
We'll
So,
see.
other than telling ridiculous stories about SwanBank's checkered past of youth ministry, I thought it would be good to get these boys on just to chat a bit about the Almighty Pod, which is our podcast that we've been running for the past, over a year. We actually recorded the first episode the Sunday before the lockdown.
The end.
The
Sunday before the
lockdown
end.
happened. Yeah. But it's been something that we'd been like talking a little bit about for a while. So I wonder if, Tom, this is probably to you really, where the thought had come from, why you felt like it was a good thing to do.
Yeah. So I've always, not always, for the past few years I've been listening to a lot of different podcasts, mainly sports ones, just because I think they're really interesting, and it's more interesting than listening to music sometimes. But then I thought, actually, it's a really good way of... I'll start that bit again.
Yeah.
I've been listening to podcasts for a while, mainly sports ones, just because I think they're really interesting, and I enjoy them. And I just thought, I went to try and find a Christian podcast, and to be honest, most of them are really boring.
Yeah.
Whether it's like church ones or just general ones that you search for on Spotify, I could not find one that I thought was fun, was like interesting, and obviously we have a great laugh together. I thought this is something we could do, even if it's just something that, like a handful of people listen to, whether it's good for the youth group. We didn't really have a target audience. We just thought, let's record a conversation and see what happens. And probably, I imagine to a lot of people that listen, they just think that it's a fun conversation, but we really wanted to have that intentionality behind it, where it's like, yes, we want it to be really funny and really engaging and easy to listen to and really accessible, but we also want to have a bit of Jesus in there at the end, as a way that we don't hide it, we don't lie about it to try and sneak Jesus in without people like realising. We're very clear that we're Christians, and that's almost what the podcast is about, but also we wanted it to be a way in where people that aren't Christians could listen to it and think, I don't have to be a Christian to listen to it. I'm not a weirdo for listening to it. But actually, I can learn a bit more about the faith through tuning in.
And that's what for me is really nice about doing it, is it doesn't feel like you have to come in and put like a different persona on, or
Yeah.
it's literally just us having a chat as we normally would, and then infiltrating some like really intentional faith conversations into that. And I wonder if one of you would just speak to some of the opportunities that's created, particularly through lockdown and the past 12 months, to reach people with like the truth of the gospel that wouldn't have otherwise engaged, perhaps.
Yeah, I think for me growing up, I wasn't secretive about faith, but it was never something I'd go out and shout about. For mates like, what have you done this weekend? I was at church. How was it? Great, fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas, so one of my friends, for example, he living on his own over lockdown. I think he's got a bit bored and missed his friends, and obviously knew that I was doing this podcast. He thought, I'll listen to this just so I can hear Chris's voice. You think I'm joking? He said that.
Wow.
Anyway, and then it was a couple of weeks ago, and we met up for a beer for the first time in a while. Obviously, because pubs are open outside, and we had quite a long conversation about how he's listened to every single episode. I think his older brother was with us at the time, and then he started telling his older brother about the Almighty Pod and telling him about what it is. Talking about, and then we end up having a whole conversation about religion, because he said, his brother was like, what's it about then? It's just me and some of my friends from church just have a chat, and link life to Jesus, and talk about poo and other things, and we just have fun doing it. And I think that's the weird thing. I think we did it just to we almost did it, I think, just for ourselves.
Yeah,
like, I think we could have.
Honestly, Tom and talking about it for so long that we just need to do it to show him up about it.
Yeah,
but,
we would have honestly recorded these and not ever put them out, just so we had something fun to do.
Yeah.
But for the fact that we get quite a few listens, and the amount of conversations I've had similar to that one I just spoke about because of it, that I would have never have had that conversation in Mallard's beer garden if it wasn't for the Almighty Pod and what we do.
That's been the great thing. Like, I don't want, off the back of this, I don't want people to listen and think, those guys love Almighty Pod so much. It's all about that. It's not. But it has been such an amazing way to evangelize to people in just a really simple way, because loads of people listen to podcasts now. I've spoke to people that I've never even met in person, but I've either seen it on social media or someone said, my mates do this. But like with Chris's mate, why don't you check this out as well? And it's just amazing. I get people messaging me on Twitter saying, I've listened to some of the basketball stuff that you've been doing, and then I've seen that you've done Almighty Pod and tuned in, and they've listened to every single episode and absolutely love it. And the most encouraging thing is that, because you can see the metrics as well, and you can see how long people listen for and all that kind of thing when you go on the website. Hardly anyone turns off when we get to the Jesus bit.
Really?
Like, everyone sticks around. And I think in a year where people have been asking a lot of questions about life and all sorts, that shows that, not that we're going to provide any answers, but actually the truth of the gospel that we try and get in at the end there is meaningful for people, even though they might not necessarily believe it to start off with.
It's the fact that there's a hunger there in there to ask the questions and find out more. What do you think makes the difference for those people? What do you think it is about the podcast and the way we do it that means people are interested enough to listen? That there's people who you would never get into a church building. I would guess. What makes the difference?
I don't know if I go off and have a conversation with someone about Jesus, I always wonder, how real is this conversation? Whereas us, it's literally just three very close friends just having a laugh together, and we talk about Jesus. And I don't know if how we approach conversation with people about Jesus, whether generally we kind of, if we do it wrong, I don't know. Maybe it should just be more of just having a laugh and a conversation with someone, and eventually you can always apply Jesus to whatever you're talking about eventually. Unless you talk about something you shouldn't.
That's one thing we figured out over the past
You
year.
can always apply Jesus to what you're having your conversation about. So there's always a way to slip that the religious side of a conversation into anything. And I don't know if that's just because it's us three having a chat and we purposely do that. Maybe that's something that we should do in more aspects of lives, well, not just on a podcast, but actually just having conversation with people. And for me, I think that's why I'm able to have so many more conversations about it, because of this.
I just think it's just relatable. I think, not to blow your own trumpets, but it is funny. It's just an easy way in, and I think even if you didn't stick around for the last bit, I think it's quite funny. I think for a podcast to be good, the best podcasts are always where you feel like you're in the room with people, and they are close friends, and we are lucky that we've got each other all as close friends, and that we all have faith in Jesus. And it's not something where it's really explicit. Right, this podcast is all about God from the start, and if you're not a Christian, therefore you're not really involved in it. We relate it to real life. We relate it to what's going on, so that it is accessible for people. And that's what we're always conscious about is what we're talking about accessible for people that don't know anything about Jesus. And as we've realised, as Chris said, whatever's going on in life, the beauty of the gospel is that Jesus can speak into that. And so, fortunately, we've been able to play a part in.
I mean, we've applied Jesus to some bizarre things.
There's been
over the past year.
Tenuous links, to say the least.
Fantasy football, supermarkets, clothes, anything.
Amazing. One of the things, I think it was something that you said earlier that just sparked off a thought in my head. One of the challenges I had when I was at school was trying to put right some of the misconceptions that people had about what it meant to be a Christian, and I think that's something particularly for our age group. It was they've been brought up in as church as something that's dull, that's about the religious side rather than the relationship side. And I think for me, one of the things that I love about what we're able to do is to speak so openly about Jesus being something that's part of our everyday lives. It's not something that we pick up off the shelf on a Sunday, and to try and dispel those myths about it being dull and boring, and that if you're a Christian, you can't laugh together and can't have fun together and talk about some of the more ridiculous things of life. It's the fact that we're able to talk about Jesus in a way that isn't super serious all the time, I think for me is something that is amazing, that we've been able to cultivate that sort of...
Even if that's all it achieves, like, I'm not expecting anyone to listen to it and go, right, I'm ready to give my life to Jesus after just listening to Chris rant about, I don't know, not believing in birthdays or whatever, some of the bizarre things we talk about. But even if it just achieves people thinking, you know what, Christians aren't the weirdos that I thought they were. That's a first step to
definitely.
Getting closer to engaging with faith. So that's a victory for us.
There's a lot of people who are worried listening to this now that people are going to start thinking Christians are all like us and they're all associated with us.
But part of our belief is that in terms of evangelism, the pressure isn't all on us. Like, we've got to believe that the Holy Spirit can work in way more powerful ways than we're able to. So if all we're doing is introducing the thought into people's minds, or taking people back to like a primary school assembly they once had where they sung this song about, like, I don't know, Jesus being your friend, and that starts them thinking about, well, what could that actually mean? Like, that's what it's about for me, is just reintroducing the fact that Jesus can be real for people. People that have maybe walked away and been away for so long and have been turned off so much by it. If we can just be a part of reintroducing that. And I think that's true whether you're running a podcast every week or just for your day-to-day, whatever you do, whoever you encounter. If we can be people, across the whole church who, in every relationship we have, are able to talk Jesus, I think that could be transformational for not just us, for our whole city.
We often say that to the youth group, don't we? One of the key phrases that seems to come up all the time is, you might be the only Bible that someone else reads. And what we mean by that is that you might be the only Christian in someone else's life, whether that's people at work or your family or anything like that. You might be the only one that they know, and so in some ways that's big pressure, because it's like whatever you do defines what being a Christian is to them. And obviously you can't get it right all the time, and we've got Jesus as our strength to empower us to do that. But also, what an opportunity that is to shape what might be a distorted view of what a Christian is. You can actually be the light and be the positivity and be the Jesus in someone's world that can help them to engage with faith a bit more.
Love it.
And we do that through the Almighty Pod.
Chris, do you want to give us a cheeky plug for the Almighty Pod? Tell people where they can find it.
It's about time, because we plugged the SwanBank Pod on the past 5 episodes.
Tom always does the thing at the end. I don't know what to say. If you want to catch more of the Almighty Pod, say you've had a taster. But if you want the full thing, if you want the real deal, if you want the full package, you can find the Almighty Pod on all good pod providers. Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, not
Yeah.
Apple Music. Spotify podcasts.
Yeah.
Amazon. Are we on Amazon?
I don't know if
Are
they
we on
do
the
podcasts.
Alexa? What you
The SwanBank podcast is on the Amazon thing.
If
If
it's not
SwanBankers will be on there.
Oh, yeah.
Easily, yeah.
You can ask Alexa for the Almighty Pod and it'll come on. But check us out.
Yeah.
It'll make your week better.
Great. Boys, thank you so much. It's been great to have you on the SwanBank podcast. I mean, I'll probably see you tomorrow for the Almighty Pod, I imagine. Folks, thank you for listening. Normal service will be resumed next week, and Catherine will be back. So we'll be out with another episode next Friday. In the meantime, have a great week. God bless.
I'm going to love just being able to go home and not edit. It's going to be amazing.
So bad.
Great.